Welcome back to Little Less Than Random. Me, Jason, Andrew.
How's it going?
No introductions needed. Let's get right to it. Okay, so we said we were going to talk about, the results of the election on our last episode.
Right, it's now
Clearly,
November
that's
5th.
not the case. Yeah, it's now November 2 days afterwards, and as of this time at the recording of this podcast, things are still up in the air.
Right. So, how do you think it's gone? Were there any surprises for you, Jason?
Surprises? I'm surprised that fucking Trump is stalling the whole voting process.
Well, is it Trump stalling it, or is it... I blame Nevada a little bit. They're like, we'll tell you tomorrow.
Yeah, but I guess that's because, like you said earlier, right? You told me... We didn't say this on a podcast or anything, but you told me this personally yourself that, as for Nevada not to influence any leaks or whatever you were saying.
Oh, so the question that I asked was that, like, all these ballots were coming in early, the mail-in ballots, and I think there were certain states that were restricted from counting them until Election Day. And they could have actually already known the tallies, but I guess the concern was that if somebody from inside knew the results, that they could then try to use that information to sway the election.
Probably. I mean, it's no surprise that a lot of the early voting, the mail-in votes, as it was been reported many times, a lot of them are Democrat voters.
Right. Well, Trump wants to end voting early
by mail
before the votes have been counted, even though many of the mail-in ballots had been cast before the votes that were in person on Election Day. And so these are early voters whose votes he doesn't want to count.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of counterintuitive because, wouldn't it be a lot fair, like you said, that have early voters' votes be casted first, and then because it takes a while, it's a longer process for that.
Yeah.
And then the actual poll votes?
Yeah, so they're counting the votes in person at the polls.
In-person votes, yeah.
Yeah, first. Mm-hmm. And so that to me seemed unfair because, well, not unfair, but it's unfair if the mail-in ballots, which were early ballots, don't get counted. So they should get counted.
I'd say it's more counterintuitive because just get the hard stuff out of the way first and the easier stuff.
Yeah.
That's just me. I mean, what the hell do I know about the voting process?
Well, what I heard that was really interesting to me is this use of this verb called found. A lot of conservatives saying that they found Biden votes. They're not finding Biden votes. They're just counting votes.
They're counting votes
that already happened. These are votes from the past.
It's not like they missed one. It's like, oh, there's a Biden vote right there in the corner of the
I felt like they're
office building right here that I forgot to. Let me put that in. No. They're all where they're all supposed to be.
Right. So there was
counted for,
potentially a Michigan data entry error. That was one thing that created some controversy.
Was that an actual thing? Was that been fact-checked?
I believe that's an actual thing that instead of, there was a 0 missing at the end of one of the numbers. And so the other addition to that was that mail-in ballots was a partisan issue. As you know, a lot of Republicans, and I even mentioned on the last podcast, my agreement to some degree with some of the Republican argument was that mail-in ballots would be hard to count. And I don't really like my mail. Like, my mail got broken into 3 times. So, but the issue is not really that votes will appear out of nowhere. The issue is more that votes can more easily go missing.
Yeah, that's if someone's trying to fuck with your mailbox.
Yeah, which they could. And I talked about how someone could try to do that. They could go to places that are likely to vote more Biden and just look at last names and racially profile.
Yeah, but has that happened? I haven't had any instances of voter intimidation.
Probably not massive, not in mass numbers.
I mean, I did hear something in the news, like some guy's a Republican, wanted to go into some, I forgot what state it was, but he was a Republican. He was a poll watcher. He wanted to see what was going on inside. He's like, mind your own fucking business. Respect the voting process, all right?
Right. And then there are some other things. A lot of people don't know this. I heard in Moreno Valley, people who wanted to go in wearing their propaganda for their position. Mm-hmm. So whether it was Biden or Trump, and I guess you're not allowed to wear a Trump or a Biden hat while you're voting.
Yeah, because it's going to just,
maybe intimidate people.
Intimidate people.
Yeah.
Honestly, Trump supporters are more intimidating But then that's just
Well,
my
I've
opinion.
heard both. I've heard both. Before election, so I'm a Biden person, but I have to give it to Republicans. No one has really been that concerned that Republicans would protest and riot for days on end. We're more concerned of the other way around. That if Trump were to have won, then liberals would riot.
Yeah, like Antifa and whatnot,
Yeah,
right? Black Lives Matter, maybe. But no, they're protesting right now the whole voting thing. But I think honestly, Trump can't handle an L,
yeah. I think it's
and
really hard
that's
for
why
his
he's
ego.
proclaiming false victory.
Well, okay, so I've heard this argument that, like, the conspiracy theories. Are you hearing those?
Aside from QAnon, what else?
Well, just that it's the government that both Republicans and Democrats have worked together to try to give Trump this loss. And, you don't have to go all the way to conspiracy theory to say that that's true, that they don't want him to win. But if it were completely true, he would have never won the first time around. Because
True.
Republicans were actively against Trump in the primaries back in 2015, and everybody hated Trump back in 2016. But he won. He won in a fair election.
And
And
you know
so,
what? It's not even the Republican Party anymore.
yeah, there's no evidence that elections aren't real.
There's no Republican Party. It's just now the Trump Party.
Yeah,
Pretty
Trump
much hijacked the Republican Party. He has them in their pockets. He's his own party. He's just pretty much hijacked the whole platform and, says he's Republican, but
Yeah. Well, so it looks like Joe Biden has a good shot at winning here, though. So he just has to keep. Right now, it's November 5th. He is leading in Arizona. I think like 80 some percent, 86, 87, close to 90% of the vote has
yeah,
been
and then
counted.
all we need is Nevada.
Nevada, he's gained a little bit of a lead, and again, much of the vote has been counted. And I guess from what I'm hearing, they're
Nevada's
expecting,
being a tease right now.
yeah, and basically, they're likely to the mail-in ballots are likely to lean towards Biden, just because mail-in ballots were a partisan issue.
Yeah. And then, yeah, he's probably got Nevada, most likely. I mean,
Yeah.
didn't Hillary win Nevada like 4 years ago?
Oh yeah, she did. She did. I think. Let's see. We can see. I actually have.
And while you're pulling that up, I guess this has been said on the news, and I'll say it if you haven't heard it. Supposedly, Biden has the most votes for any U.S. candidate in election history.
Yeah, that's crazy. Do you think that's because Biden was popular, because people don't like Trump, or just because we've expanded how we vote? We now voted more. We encourage people to vote over several weeks.
I think it's more than one. There's a lot of things that factoring in. It could be more than one reason.
Or do you believe the
I
conspiracy?
mean, because the pandemic. Don't forget, we're in a pandemic, right?
Right. So you would think there'd be less votes, right?
You think that, yeah. But no, it's just everyone's too scared to go out and vote in person, so most of them did the voting early. And like we said, they were mostly Democrats.
Yeah.
Because everyone listened to Biden, as we should. Or at least I should. I don't know
Most
about
of the
you.
mail-in votes, you mean, were
Yeah,
Democrats.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And then anyone that were in those rallies, they were just like, oh, let's just all swarm the polls and
Vote
in person.
Right. But a lot of people voted in person days early and, weeks early.
yeah, but there was
So-
a lot more mail-ins than there were.
Well, I'm saying that's what could have increased the numbers, because we had good participation. You would think that
But yeah, definitely voter turnout is like
all-time high.
all-time high. Yeah.
Yeah, because Trump is also, that was the other surprising thing to me. So I knew that the polls were going to be wrong and it was going to be much closer in Trump's favor. I didn't think so many millions of people could support Trump.
Yeah.
That was a little surprising. And that so many people would support Biden.
I mean, I guess we need to just get Trump out of office. I mean, come on. What else is there to say, really? Trump has been probably the most toxic president we've ever had.
I don't know about the most toxic, but if he could do what he wants to do, certainly among them, and one of the most absurd, like some of his policies.
He's not godlike. He can't just. I mean, yeah, there's lawsuits going around.
Yeah, right. Like,
Should we dig into that?
well, imagine if he got to build his wall, right? Like, think how much money would be wasted on this wall.
Yeah, whose money? Because definitely the Senate's not going to pay for the Congress or whoever.
Right.
No, It's not. Mexico's definitely not paying for it. It's probably out of someone else's money in their own or Trump's pocket. Who knows?
Right.
He had 4 years to do what he wanted, and
He's done nothing.
He's done nothing.
Right.
Exactly.
Virtually nothing.
And yet people still support him.
Yeah. And I've seen like these examples of things that he's done. A lot of the things that he's done weren't necessarily his accomplishments. They were sort of carryovers from Obama's. And some of them aren't even really considered accomplishments.
Oh, yeah. Did you hear about how they pulled out on the Paris Climate Agreement?
Right.
Yeah. What's with the withdrawals of all these things? Okay, here's my main gripe with Trump, aside from just being a rabble-rouser. He's against science. Why would you fire the leading expert in infectious diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci?
Right. Well, I don't like to say that one side is against science. Both sides are pretty anti-science. It's just some sides.
But science is what's going to help solve this fucking pandemic.
Right. Absolutely. But both sides are pretty anti-science. Like, you got the one side that.
But Biden said at least Biden said he was going to fire Fauci. He said he was going to hire him.
But let's put it in terms of the pandemic. We know that coronavirus affects people disproportionately based on their gender, and we know it disproportionately impacts people based on
their color,
race. Yeah,
race. Yeah.
And so the fact that there's one side of the political spectrum that denies there are any biological differences between men and women, for example. Zero. There are none. They're all socially constructed. Well, men and women are not biologically indistinguishable. And so if you actually took those claims at face value, one side is very anti-science and it has profound impacts in terms of coronavirus if doctors were to actually take that seriously. Of course they don't. But both sides are very anti-science.
But why does this have to be politicized? I mean,
we shouldn't. Science should never.
Science
be
is what brings the world together. I mean, it's what helped us build.
Evidence.
It gave us biology, computers and stuff like. So everything is derivative because of science.
Right.
Yeah. So, and motherfucker Trump throughout the pandemic playbook. Why would you do that?
Right. Well, okay. Let's try to think of some good.
Throwing out everything Obama had in place.
Right. Yeah. And it's just amazing, the conspiracy theories. Like, people just don't seem to get that.
They believe more in conspiracy theories than in science.
Science, yeah. And they'll believe in it without evidence. People don't seem to get that. When you make a claim, the evidence required to substantiate that claim should be proportionate to the size of the claim. And with no evidence, they'll accept anything that fits their narrative. It's like, I want Trump to win. It couldn't be that there was this huge bias in mail-in ballots, which everyone predicted there would be. And it has to be that they found votes, not that votes were counted that hadn't been counted.
Found, as in just mysteriously showed up.
Right.
I don't know, somewhere, maybe from a river, like Trump said, right?
Well, was there any truth to that claim that there were votes in the river?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
Is there any truth to what he says?
Well,
hardly.
Well, there might be. I mean, he could. It's not inconceivable that some votes would get lost in the mail. Like, I suggested that could happen. The other worry was that there would
probably
be
just invalid ballots because of signatures.
Well, that too. That was the other reason I thought people should vote in person, because I was a vote in person. I actually agreed with Republicans on this one, but I meant for Biden supporters should vote in person, because if people don't do their envelope correctly, they could get.
I mean, it's not that hard to follow instructions, really.
Oh, dude, you just do not know the American public, I guess. Like, people cannot follow instructions. How many people put Q-tips in their ears?
Why are you looking at me when you're saying?
I don't know. I imagine you probably put Q-tips.
I do.
In your ears.
Even though I learned my lesson the first time around not to do it. But then again, I blame the Q-tip manufacturers for faulty Q-tips, right?
Yeah. Everybody knows you're not supposed to put those in. I hope people know that you're not supposed to put those in.
But it's so fucking convenient.
How many people read the instructions on that?
If it's so convenient, it's like, not to like get sideways here, but like, seriously though, you have a whole bunch of them and you don't know how much is accumulating within your ears that you can't help but take a Q-tip and then just go on both sides.
It feels so good,
right? I guess. It feels good knowing that there isn't crap inside your ears.
But there's more crap. It's just compacting the crap.
Yeah, maybe just pushing the crap further in. I don't know.
Right. But I think I think you're overestimating the public's ability to read, or not ability, but willingness to read.
I mean, if they took the time to vote, they could at least take the
You-
time to put their name, signature.
Yeah.
It's kind of redundant to even do that. I guess it's to prove that you're that voter.
Yeah, but even smart people can mess it up, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make. It's not that they're dumb, but people don't read instructions.
It's common sense, but I guess common sense isn't so common.
Well, I mean, I get super nervous at the poll. Like, okay, so when when I'm using the machine, I'm like, am I pushing the right button? I read through my thing like 3 times, almost irrationally, to make sure I got the right vote that I wanted.
Yeah.
And that I read the question right.
And it didn't glitch out, like you wanted Biden, but accidentally hit Trump.
Right, something like that. Yeah, I know. So, I mean, I am really picky and cautious with that to make sure I got it right.
And you trust the machine more than your own
You know, that's weird.
handwriting of just filling the oval.
That's switched over the years because I was very slow to adopt to using machines for counting money, for like going to the bank, the ATM. Now I prefer the ATM to count my money over a human. Right?
Yeah.
And I was actually really slow. I don't know if you do this, to do checks through the phone, just taking a picture of a check. And then you just throw the check. Well, you can file it away, but you're supposed to just kind of throw the check away or destroy the check.
Yeah.
Yeah, and usually you write deposited on the check, and that destroys the check. That makes me nervous too because, I'm still a little bit iffy on it, but now I don't go to the bank. It's completely taken away the human aspect of it. So now I do.
And then just go inside the bank and ask your teller to count your money.
Yeah, now I don't trust the teller. I trust the machine. So when they count my money, I'm like, you're going to put it through that little machine that counts it, right?
Do you trust, since we're talking about trust here, do you trust the voting process? Do you trust the people counting the votes? Or is it the machines?
Well, here's the deal, is that if there are going to be individual...
Is that not a Biden reference? Right
no,
there?
I wasn't trying to do it on
Here's
purpose.
the deal.
Come
on,
there are going to
America.
be obvious human errors, but
That's malarkey.
Human errors are going to be on both sides, and they're going to be very small. You'd have to have it. I do support the potential for a recount. So let's say like one of these states is really close. Sure, we have till January 20th recount. I want to make sure that everything is transparent as possible, so that we have a legitimate. Or that people.
Yeah, so no one's bullshitting the other, all right?
Yeah, but see, when you think about it, there is no way to convince a conservative that it's a fair election, even if their claims wouldn't add up if you compare them to the 2016
Okay,
election.
say we did all that, right? We recounted. That's not good enough for Trump. I don't think he's going to concede. I don't think he's going to go out quietly.
No, and I was actually thinking. I was telling this to Jocelyn, like, when it comes to the conspiracy theories of the right, we can't even convince more than half the population that science is the deal, the real deal. That there isn't some...
Dude, there's still people that believe the earth is flat.
Well, there's people who believe in a bearded man in the sky who cares about what they do naked. Like, we cannot convince people that science is real. It's not that... It actually isn't that surprising that Trump's so popular, This world that we live in, humans, we're not good critical thinkers.
I guess Trump is, apparently. He's a con man. He's a con man that somehow sleazed his way into the office.
Yeah.
I mean, New Yorker con man.
To be fair to conservatives, we know that, that the Democrats, that they succumb to the same sorts of biases and greed that Trump does. We know that they're also pretty bad people.
So they're just easily influenced by Trump.
No, I think they just prefer Trump. Like, I think that conservatives know that. I think they know that Trump is a sleazeball, but they're just like, I prefer this sleazeball over the other one that's been.
He's probably the biggest sleazeball of them all.
That's been effing me for decades. It's like at least it's somebody different effing me.
Yeah. Weird analogy, but yeah.
Yeah. You just want not the same person. Like that. I think that's kind of the way conservatives see it.
Yeah.
Another person I heard talk about the election, he said it's like, everybody knows Trump's asleep. Like, Trump is not running on being the good person. Biden is, and so that's why the Hunter Biden stuff is such a big deal. Do you think that swayed the election? The Hunter Biden, I wouldn't call him conspiracy.
I don't see it
theories.
where his son has to do anything with the election.
Yeah,
I mean,
we know his son has had some struggles with substance abuse. We know he's
which son is this, Bo or Hunter?
Hunter.
Okay.
Yeah, and we know that he's had a tough life, and we know that there's some corruption there, and
No politician is an angel.
right, not even Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
And so the issue is that we just know that we don't know that the extent to which Biden is involved. For all we know, when Hunter Biden says
It's probably
and
taken out of
10%.
context.
Well, when he says and 10% for the big guy, there's no evidence there to say that Biden was in on that deal. Hunter could just be saying, "I just want 10% more," and I'm claiming I'm going to give it to the big guy, but I never do. Right?
I don't know.
That's a possibility, right?
But you don't see Biden going after Donald Trump's kids, does he? So
Yeah, actually, no, I don't see that, and it could be that
come on, because
what's the phrase?
Biden's not going to stoop to Trump's level.
Or it could be the other reason. Don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Okay, to those who don't know that.
Well, if you live in a glass house,
yeah.
if your house could easily shatter if somebody threw stones back at you.
Oh, I thought you said sticks
Right.
for a second.
Oh, well, stakes too would apply. Yeah,
Yeah.
either. So it could be that too.
Yeah. So other than now, like it's just like right now we're at a standstill.
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think Biden's got it. I mean, I don't know if you want to look at it really quickly.
Yeah, go ahead. Maybe who knows? Something might have happened while we were talking.
I don't think so.
We hit refresh. Okay, depending on the news outlet, media, or whatever.
I'm on the New York Times.
It's either 253 or 264.
Yeah.
My heart's set to 264.
So I think a lot of people are calling Arizona too early because notice it says 86% calculated. So there's still a lot of votes up. Notice Alaska's only 56% calculated, like votes counted. But Alaska, we know, is usually Republican. Georgia's 98%. I think Georgia could flip. Maybe, I don't know why everybody's focusing on Pennsylvania. Maybe because that 2% isn't enough to flip it. But it's a lot closer than Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And so everybody's looking at Pennsylvania. And Nevada just said, F you, we're going to take our sweet ass
So we
time.
still have some toss-up swing states.
Yeah. But if Biden wins Nevada and Arizona, it's over. Yeah, he's won. So if Trump loses, I think everybody's looking at Pennsylvania because if Trump loses any state at this point, he cannot win the election.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Red Mirage, shall we?
Sure. What did you want to say about that?
Okay, so when people look at the Electoral Map, right, probably they're for Biden, right? And they're confused by looking at the map and like, it's mostly red, right?
Yeah.
You see more red than blue. Mm-hmm. And then like, what was the instance? I think it was Wisconsin or Michigan. It was mostly red.
Yeah.
But it was actually flipped to blue.
Right, because there's more populated areas that are Democratic. So it's that's really it. But didn't the Red Mirage also have to do with the fact that the early votes counted would most likely lean towards Trump because they were going to be in person?
Game,
yeah. So that's certainly true. If you look at the total votes, Biden's winning total votes by, what is that? Is that 3 million votes? About 4 million votes? What is that?
What are you looking at here?
Total votes.
Total votes.
Yeah, so he's at 72.7 million, and Trump is at 68.9. So he's won the popular vote. So, Donald Trump at this point, he's lost the popular vote twice. He was impeached by people who were elected officials, right? And so a Democratic Republic has said, we do not want you as president, about 3 times in three different ways. And so I do think this should be...
And that says a lot,
Yeah. So, but we should still count the votes. Once all the votes are counted...
Yeah, because, let's count all the votes because that's what the baby wants. Let the baby have his bottle.
Well, he didn't want to count the votes. He wants to stop counting if he's ahead.
See, that's what I'm not getting.
And keep counting if he's behind.
Okay, count the votes, but don't count them if I'm behind.
No, count the votes, but don't count them if I'm ahead.
If I'm ahead, don't count them. But count them if I'm not.
Right. So
Don't listen to me. I'm not. It don't make sense half the time.
The only reason we should not count the votes is if the votes are not enough to make up the difference. Right? That would be the only reason. And if the margin is wide. If the margin is close, then I guess you are headed towards that sort of recount area where a recount would be legitimate.
Yeah, let's recount it so the baby can shut up.
Yeah.
Let the baby have his bottle.
Yeah. But I'm just amazed how many people legitimately can find any admirable qualities in Trump. There are very few that I can think of.
All I can think is scandal after scandal after scandal.
Right.
And that was way before he was president or when he was still a candidate.
Well, even if you just look at policy, he's been just an epic failure most recently, especially with coronavirus. And
that's what I was trying to tell you before.
With healthcare, too. He's been terrible when it comes to...
Yeah, where's that plan, huh? Where's this plan that you're supposed to replace it?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay. I mean, that kind of concludes my thoughts on the election.
I mean, yeah.
Wait and see.
Yeah, we'll keep, when things get updated, we'll keep you posted and just hear our lovely voices. I don't know about Andrew's, though. Maybe just me, then.
Yeah, we'll just do a Jason only podcast.
Yeah, I mean, God, man, it's been a bad year, and this shit happens.
Right. I'm okay. So, what's the path for Democrats? Let's say Biden wins. Now, what for Democrats? What does this mean for us?
Well, I know they don't have the House or the Senate. What was it?
Right. The Senate is going to be Republican. Also the Supreme Court.
Let's not go there.
Republicans succeeded with getting Amy Barrett. Some people think she's worse than I do, and I haven't been convinced. When I listened to her talk about respecting precedent, I did not hear the arguments from her that seemed extremist. I thought she was a perfectly qualified.
You think she's neutral?
No, I don't think she's neutral, but I think she's reasonable. I didn't hear what other people seem to be freaking out. What about Trump derangement syndrome and this whole and I think this also applies to Barrett
yeah, I've heard about that. Let's talk about that a bit.
Isn't Trump derangement syndrome a real thing?
I mean, why don't you ask the Trump supporters?
No. I mean, the liberals who freak out, who say, I can't come out from under my desk to go buy tomatoes because people are dying.
What are we trying to get at?
I'm trying to get at is there not some legitimacy to the point that liberals overreact to the threats of some of the Republican Party and Trump in general?
It's the same thing is true for the opposite. For former Trump supporters, the ones that voted for him the first time around 2016.
Yeah.
They've regretted it.
A lot of them did, yeah.
Yeah, including my mom's husband.
Oh, I don't know.
I guess my
that.
stepdad.
Do you want to talk a bit about it? Or?
Oh, yeah. It's just like any other person who regretted voting for Trump.
He just voted for Trump and now he doesn't like him.
Yeah, because of the whole handling of the coronavirus.
Right.
Again, seriously, I really don't want to talk about politics, but this is we're pretty much talking about our livelihoods here. If we were in the middle of a pandemic and if this was just any other politician, we wouldn't be talking about this. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, we might.
We might, I don't know, depending if it was interesting or not.
Okay, so one thing that's certainly true is if Trump is removed from office and he's a one-term president, that's going to be really bad for YouTubers.
How's that?
Well, because Trump is so outrageous, he has been just gold for people like Dave Pacman, for Joe Rogan, for people like
so pretty much anyone that opposes him, he's going to silence.
Yeah, Dave Rubin. What's that other guy? The NPC.
NPC.
Yeah, non-playable character.
Yeah, I don't know which NPC.
He's the one that's always crying about everything. He's like, I'm a victim. I'm a victim. I'm a victim. Tim Pool.
Yeah, that I don't know. You know that name.
You don't know who Tim Pool is?
You told me about him.
Oh, I thought you knew about him.
I knew about him because you told me about him.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's an NPC. Okay, so those people, they're going to have nothing to talk about.
I guess we have nothing to talk about either.
No, we're not a politics channel.
But we're talking about politics.
Just today.
We're just talking about it.
But it is a major event.
Just because, it's a major event. you know, I said my piece, you said your piece,
Yeah.
and we're just talking about just God. Like I said, this is affecting our day-to-day lives.
Right.
I don't know what's gonna
Well,
happen.
yeah. With some people, yeah, it really is
It's
affecting
like waiting for the results for an STD test. You know, we don't have to worry about it.
Maybe we should cut that.
Maybe
out
it's a
of the
horrible
podcast.
analogy. I don't know. I just read something on the internet, a meme, I think, saying waiting for the election results is like the equivalent of waiting for the result of an STD test. I guess positive would be Biden, right?
I don't know.
I mean, Biden, I'm sorry.
Wait.
Maybe for Trump supporters,
Maybe
yeah.
there's maybe it's like either way you're
I
getting.
mean,
Either way
negative
you've
would
got
be-
an STD. It's just which one.
Positive would be you got the Trump syndrome.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, do we have TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome?
How would I know if I have it?
I don't know. Like, it's maybe
Well,
it's not something
what
you could-
behaviors or symptoms would I have to have?
Well, the behavior would be something like overreacting to Trump. Even just the name Trump. Like if you hear the
Like
word,
they get triggered?
like yeah, like if you hear the word trumpet,
Like, oh my God, I don't want to hear that.
it's like trumpet.
Okay, maybe the SJWs would react like
Right.
that.
Well, I mean, like, okay, some people get more triggered hearing the word Trump than hearing the word Al Qaeda or hearing Bin Laden or
Jeffrey Epstein.
Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, some people are more obsessed with Trump than Epstein and other bad actors. Like they think Trump is just the worst person in human history. They literally compare
He
him
might
to
as well
Hitler.
be at this point.
Well, you can't do a literal comparison to Hitler.
I mean, true, yeah, because Hitler's killed people.
6 million Jews. Like Trump is pretty awful.
He's just morally just
but he's
bad.
not trying to exterminate. You know, he's not committing mass genocide.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, I see what you're going.
Yeah. So like,
But he's bad, and I think he's just like law. He's just a lawful evil
yeah,
guy.
or even like Bin Laden. He's not a organized. Well, not in the way Bin Laden was. He's not an international organized terrorist.
Well, he doesn't fund for terrorism.
Yeah,
He's not-
I mean, I could see how Chomsky would argue that, you know, when we take into account the damage he's done to democracy or the potential damage he attempts to do to democracy or to, you know, on the climate change, that he's pretty terrible. But he's not intending to commit genocide, and I think that is a clear difference.
No. If anything, we're scared that it might be a new civil war. You think there's a coup going on?
I don't think so. I think Trump's going to accept it. I don't know if he's going to make a speech. He'll probably make a speech like, you know,
He's
they
already
lied
made a
to you.
speech proclaiming
Yeah.
victory. But
Yeah, he might say something like, you know, Democrats stole this election and, you know, good riddance to you do nothing Democrats or people, or I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's going to be something probably nasty. I would be surprised if he did a presidential.
Pretty, like, when I saw him, like, he had the most... His voice sounded kind of flat. He didn't sound as enthusiastic.
No, right. What do you think about censoring? So Twitter took down his tweets and of reports.
I mean, because they have to, because there's some people out there that'll, like you said, that, like, immediately get triggered and it's like, oh, no, he won? Like, oh, no.
But don't we have to know that he's making these statements?
That... Because people, like you said, some people don't, well, I don't know if you said it, but some people just don't know any better.
Yeah.
So you have to have Twitter saying, you know, disinformation.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just generally
Incorrect.
not for taking down.
If it's not a
information.
fact, it's not a fact. Therefore,
Yeah, but you could.
But people take it as a fact, even though it's a false claim. It's
People could point out that it's a false claim. It could be mentioned.
so therefore it has to be noted as a false claim.
but not removed. Like I'm against the removing. But I know, yeah, they did. Maybe they didn't. Remove
I mean,
it,
just
they
to
might
have
just
it archived saying he said a false statement,
Yeah.
we're not removing it, but it's false, and we have to note it as false.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta fact check the
Yeah.
stupid shit that he says.
Yeah, because I'm just worried that people, you know, the conspiratorial thinking of people, that removing claims is like the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, what is this, like the Barbra Streisand effect?
Oh, explain the Barbra Streisand effect.
Supposedly you try to hide something, but it's going to make people more interested about it.
Yeah, something like that. Exactly.
You've heard of it, right?
No, I think of it more of like you remember those stickers that they used to sell on CDs, the explicit content?
Yeah.
Where you can have the opposite impact, where you're trying to censor something and keep people from listening to it. And same thing, but just a different analogy.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Why do they call it Barbara Streisand?
Because it involved a story where she was trying to hide her house from paparazzis, or her $1 million house, whatever, how much the value of her home was. And
That only
somehow
drew
got
attention.
leaked, and she tried to hide the fact, the story, or whatever. So they were trying to cover up something.
Right.
I mean, you can Google it. I don't have to really
Oh,
explain.
okay. Well, maybe listeners never heard of the Barbara Streisand effect, so it's kind of cool to hear about.
Yeah, and then it makes people curious after the fact. You try to censor or hide something.
Right. It's not like the Mandela effect where two things can be true at the same time.
No, those have to do with false memories.
Oh, okay. All right.
They supposedly share with someone else.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Okay.
We'd have a whole another episode about that.
All right. So until next time.
Till next time, maybe soon, whatever the fuck happens next. I'm sorry, I'm very unapologetic when I talk. I probably cuss more than Adele.
Computers cuss?
Adele, not Adele. Adele, the singer.
Oh, okay.
Bloody fucking A. I'm a Grammy singer. I don't know if she won a Grammy, but shows how much I know.
I thought you were a pop culture enthusiast.
Come on, really,
But
Adele?
just not Adele enthusiast.
I'm not an Adele. I can't even do an impersonation of Adele, but yeah.
All right. Until next time.
All right, till next time, Lee.